Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open in the distant future on the most important space station in the galaxy. If this thing blows up, then mankind have no way of traveling back to Earth and they're stuck out here forever. A humanoid alien race called the Dracs know this and send fighters to destroy it, so Earth's best pilots scramble their spaceships. Ever since human mining operations were taken intergalactic, the two races have been warring for planetary squatters' rights. These toad faces aren't even shown for the first 13 minutes of the film. We only see a three-fingered hand as it blows some chick up. The dogfight takes Davidge and his co-pilot Joey to an uncharted planet in pursuit of the last remaining enemy fighter. It's an ace flyer despite taking damage, so once inside the atmosphere the Drac ejects, causing its ship to collide with the humans. Poor Joey was telling his stubborn co-pilot to pull up the entire time but is now going to die from the crash landing. The least the pilot can do is drag his body from the wreckage before it disintegrates in the explosion, as we might need it later for food. With his last breath, Joey tells Davidge to stop calling his girlfriend the white balloon, as I guess he's got a chunky missus back on Earth. We're left marooned here with this bully who makes Joey a casket out of stone because there isn't much of anything else. There's only 3 native fauna on the whole planet. One is a scuttling turtle leech that falls into a trap laid out by its predator. The pit-dwelling tentacle haver drags its dinner underground, then spits out the stripped shell before letting out a burp. Just then Davidge spots the crashed Drac ship and sets off to get revenge, as we've got to blame somebody else for this mess we're in. As he creeps up, Davy begins to get nervous because he's never actually seen a Drac before and just heard they're reptilian hermaphrodites. He finds this one taking a swim in a lake by its escape pod and intending to shoot this thing. He needs to get a little closer, but he slips and drops the gun in the water, alerting the alien with the proud name of Jeriba Shigan. Jerry grabs its alien blaster, so Davidge now waits for the perfect moment to violently shank this lizard in the neck. At night, as it begins raining, Jerry puts the weapon away to go for a swim, so dastardly Davy pours fuel onto the lake's surface. He lights it on fire and attempts to take the alien's rifle but gets electrocuted by the pod, while Jerry emerges completely unharmed. One failed murder attempt later, the Drac has a human hostage, and to shut him up feeds Davidge an appetizing looking lake slug. The language barrier prevents any conversation, but when a meteor shower strikes the area, the alien risks its life to cut the prisoner free. They take cover in a nearby cave, and when Jerry falls asleep, Davidge could easily slit the alien's throat but chooses to investigate the pod instead. He begins eating food pellets from the emergency supply, which angers Jerry when it finds out that we got a glutton on our hands. Instead of getting a laser to the face, Davidge conveys through body language that they need to find a better place to build a shelter. The Drac agrees, so turns Davy into a pack mule to carry supplies from the wreckage while it keeps him at gunpoint the entire time. Once they find a clearing, Davidge is also made to spend all day building a hut out of logs and stone, but the best he can do sucks. It collapses, so they build a campsite and remain outside under the stars with the constant threat of a meteorite to the head. The alien begins learning English through inspirational Mickey Mouse quotes like, "If at first you don't succeed, try again." Davidge teaches him this as if they're teachings from a wise human leader, but then he's the first one to give up hope of being rescued. Jerry, on the other hand, carries a small Bible around his neck and prays to something called the Shizmar, but the human says that's ridiculous. They blame each other's species for starting the war. Then after their argument, Davidge goes hunting the turtle slug. He uses a homemade bow that he's constructed to bury an arrow into the groundrunner's head, but Davidge then falls into an ambush. A tendril emerges from the burrowing pit fiend and wraps up his leg, but Jerry hears the screams and comes rushing to his defense. It makes it in time to blow the tendril in half, bringing out the screaming pit fiend just to be shot in the face and retreat. Once Jerry treats Davidge's leg, they use alien shells to construct a meteor-proof shelter after what looks like eradicating the whole turtle population. It's against Jerry's customs to teach someone their language unless it first teaches them about their religion, so it gifts Davidge the Bible. Weeks turn to months as the human learns the alien language and hears ships throughout the night, but nothing ever comes to save them. One day, while reading the Bible, which little differs from the humans, another meteor shower strikes, but Jerry moves noticeably slower. They make it into the shelter and begin arguing over who started the war again and why the alien has got so fat in its old age. It leads to a physical altercation, but when the shower passes they realize that they're beginning to go crazy. Davidge decides to search for a way off this planet while Jerry remains here, saying that they're alone and that it's just a dangerous waste of time. More weeks pass and Davidge is happy to come upon a human campsite that is, until he finds it's an abandoned slave mine. The scavengers and pirates are only allowed to operate in these parts by the humans because they hunt their greatest enemy, the Drac. It's winter when Davidge returns to the shelter, where he learns that Jerry isn't just lazy but couldn't go with him because of a pregnancy. When it's a Drac's time to die, they reproduce like a phoenix, and soon the human will have a newborn alien to raise by himself. Jerry makes some baby clothes for when the time comes, but that night as they're sleeping, the pit fiend emerges in the shelter seeking revenge. It wraps its tendril around Jerry's neck, but when the mouth opens, Davidge wakes up and throws some hot coals down the monster's throat. As the creature thrashes about, the two escape, but the natural structures collapse around them, destroying their shelter as well as the beast itself. Davy and Jerry take refuge in a cave from the cold, but the alien goes into labor, meaning it's only got a short time left to live. It explains the Jerry family tradition of cycling through the same 5 names for the past 170 years, so the baby will be called Zammis. When it's time to deliver the little lizard, Davy panics at the thought of losing his friend but promises to bring the baby to the Drac homeworld. Jerry's clan will die if he doesn't, so when the alien passes, Davidge extracts the newborn Zammis with a delivery address. The Drac is buried in Joey tradition, and Zammis is raised over a montage where it grows much faster than a human child. When it's a young boy-girl, Zammis begins to question why it looks different from Davidge, but he just teaches it they come from honorable races. One day humans visit the planet, so Davidge tells Zammis to hide in the cave for his safety and goes to see what they're like. They turn out to be Drac slavers who use the aliens to mine the planet's resources, so Davy chooses not to make himself known. He just tells Zammis never to go near them and spends his days teaching the young Drac how to play football with a clump of moss. The little athlete understands that it's of a different species, but always talks about how it wishes it looked like Davidge and even calls him uncle. Desperate to see one of its own kind, Zammis sneaks off to visit the mine, but his first experience is seeing the humans whipping Drac slaves. When he turns to leave, the slavemaster Stubbs and his little brother Johnny capture the young Drac, but not without him putting up a fight. Suddenly an arrow shot into the back of little bro's neck, and Davidge pops up to warn Stubbs to let Zammis go. But the kid runs between the two, allowing Stubbs to pull a gun and shoot Davy multiple times before abducting the new slave. Presumed to be dead, the human's body is found by the Earth Alliance and brought back to the space station, where he's to be given a military burial. About to flush him into space, a technician tries to take the alien Bible from around his neck, but Davidge isn't quite dead yet. He begins speaking the Drac language, so they rush him to a medical bay where some people even think he might be a spy for the enemy. It's been 3 years since Davidge went missing, but once he's healed, he immediately wants to return and rescue Zammis. His squad leader forbids him from leaving, but Davy doesn't need his permission and just uses a ship's weapons to blast the hangar door open. He flies down to the planet and sneaks into the Drac mine outside of the Scavenger's ship to ask if anybody's seen his nephew. One of the slavers starts beating the Dracs to make them return to work, so Davidge kills him by throwing the human into a large drill. The eldest of the slaves can see that he's really a friend, so tells Davidge that Zammis is being held somewhere in the ship. He kills another slaver to take his clothes and uses them as a disguise to get close enough to take out anyone else. Besides an already dead Drac, he locates Zammis locked in a cage and pries it open, but the reunion is short-lived as they get captured by Stubbs. Recognizing the intruder as the man who killed his brother, Stubby plans to torture him, but Davy fights back. He takes out about half a dozen henchmen, even using one of their pistols to kill a few, but it conveniently runs out of ammo when only Stubbs is left. The two fight and Zammis is dropped into a conveyor belt cart, but before rocks can crush him, Davidge saves the unconscious child. He's put right back inside, where Stubbs also places Davidge before knocking him unconscious and reactivating the smelter. The Drac slaves are alerted to the noise of a victorious Stubbs walking around bragging, but he also just lost all of his protection. The elder shoots him in the back, causing his body to fall in molten metal as the humans land on the planet, probably to reprimand Davy. They're welcome to enter the ship by the now free Dracs to shut down the conveyor system before it swallows them up like Stubbs. When they regain consciousness, everyone watches as the first thing Zammis says is how ugly his uncle looks without a beard. I guess it takes after its mentor, who teaches Zammis how to recite all of the Drac prayers that Jerry once taught him. This is the only shot of the alien homeworld where Davidge gets added to the rotation of names in the Jerry family. And the movie ends.